Welcome back to the Restop PC channel. Today we're going to be doing something that I needed to do. Is some of you may notice our background's a little different, so I moved the room we have our everything set up in. So in order to do that, I'm gonna have to shrink my personal computer, my personal gaming PC down. Currently, or I guess previously, because it's already kind of torn apart now. I just did this off camera. This Corsair RM1000x case will no longer fit where I need it to fit on the side of my desk, so I have to shrink my build down to a micro ATX build. So we're going to be converting all my parts into the Lian Li Dan A3, which I have the case next to me here. Let's go over the specs real quick. So I did make sure all this will fit. The one big problem about going with smaller form factor cases like micro ATX and even ATX is fitment. So will everything fit in the case? So I went ahead and made sure that everything will fit. So we have the Corsair HX 1000i power supply to pair with our NVIDIA GeForce 4080 Super. This is the Msi Ventus card. So that's another thing that would fit inside the case. Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. Cooler Master 360 AIO. And we have our motherboard because I didn't have a different one, another micro ATX motherboard, so we're going with the ASUS Tough Gaming B650M plus Wi-Fi, mainly because I had this board from a previous bundle deal we bought at Micro Center, so it comes with that board, so we went ahead and I'm just going to use that board because I have one. So yeah, everything does. Yeah. Instead of using the Cooler Master fans that comes with the AIO, we're going to go ahead and use these Montech fans. I like the perimeter lighting instead of the central lighting. So I think it's gonna look better in the build. For RAM, we're gonna be using this Corsair Vengeance RGB DDR5 CL 6000 MHz CL30 kit. So let's go ahead and start by installing everything onto our motherboard. So for that, we're gonna go ahead and get our secondary camera out so we can show everything. Hopefully having this secondary setup will make the videos a lot better to watch, a lot more informative. I'm going to open the motherboard box, go ahead and get everything set up here. Video, okay. Oh, I forgot to change that, frick. Oh, okay. All right, let's go ahead and get our motherboard opened up. We already used this motherboard before, but we did test all this before. But I just wanted to put everything back in its box to make sure it was safe. To make sure none of the pins or anything got damaged during that time. Hope you can't say that guy's name. Probably. I don't know. So we're going to go ahead and install our RAM, our CPU. We already have the drive installed. We left that installed from previous times of doing this. So we'll go ahead and pop our CPU open. 7800X 3D. We have used this already. This is our previous one. But we are putting it back in here. Go ahead and pop it open. I'm going to put it in the socket. Make sure you don't drop it. Just set it in lightly. Go ahead and make sure it's jimmied in the right spot. Make sure everything lines up where it's supposed to. The arrow in the top left. Make sure it goes. Make sure the arrow in the top left goes in the right direction. Close it down. Make sure this fits there. Pop that up. So that's good. All right. Go ahead and get our RAM out, which we just had. Most kits, no matter the branding of the kit or whatever, the kit branding is not autofocus very well. The branding will always go with the top of the logo facing the CPU. And in this motherboard, we're going to put in slots 2 and 4. Like most motherboards. This has a static bottom, and then it has the latch on top. Just put it down to your click. Same thing with this. So it clicks. All right, we're not going to install the CPU cooler right now, just because this thing does not need to focus. It needs to focus better. We're not going to put the CPU cooler in yet because we're using AIO. For the AIO we're using, it does use the default AM5 brackets. So we're going to keep it. Dude, why does this thing keep freaking not auto focusing? It's annoying. Okay, so yeah, we're going to keep that like that. All right. Let's go ahead and get our case out. As I mentioned, this is the Lian Li A3 Dan case, micro ATX case. Reason why I have it, the reason why I got this case and maybe not a different one was airflow for 1, 2. It was on sale at Micro Center. It was an open box. It was actually an open box case, so that's why we're going with this one. It was cheaper. So yeah, we're going to slide the top panel off. First thing I always do when I get a new case or building my new case, I take all the panels off of it, all of them, set them aside so we're not going to step on them. Set them aside. So set them aside. Put them aside to where you're not going to step on them and or break any of them. We're going to lay our case down the right direction. All right, so things about this case you have to kind of know about. Some nuances to it is this has the power supply in the front of the case. It does fit a normal ATX power supply, but so we're going to use the power supply in the front. So this back cable is the power thing. The audio cable, front panel connectors, and the USB connectors all kind of do get in the way. I will admit that, and when putting in a graphics card or even installing like your GPU, CPU, stuff like, or your GPU or your graphics card, or installing your power supply, it does kind of get in the way. So that's the one thing negative about some of these smaller form factor cases. So just kind of keep in mind of that. I'm going to tuck this wire in here. We want to pull this out, this little tray for the power supply. And this build will be a tight build, I will admit that as well. Go ahead and make sure everything's lined up. So good. If you don't have a pre-installed rear I/O, make sure you install it into this slot down here. If you do have a pre-installed I/O, make sure it's just in there. And you just slide into the hole. Make sure it's all lined up. And then these holes right here will all line up all the way around. Some cases actually have it. I think a lot of the NZXT cases have it to where this hole right here in the middle of the motherboard will be just like an alignment dowel instead of a screw hole. It does make it a little nicer to line up your motherboard, but this one does not have that option. I'll go ahead and just tuck everything away. Yeah, I do have thermal paste all over my fingers now, which we will go ahead and wipe all the thermal paste off this build when we're done. You see it on the motherboard a little bit there, but we will go ahead and do that when we're done. Am I not fitting it? Oh, that's not the right motherboard screw. What the hell screw is that for? Whatever. We'll go ahead and put our motherboard screws in. Does that just fit in there? Are you freaking trolling me? Does that just fit in here? had this in here. Did I not fit in here? Only like 2 motherboard screws actually fit in this freaking case. I need new motherboard screws. Yeah, only 2 of them actually fit in this case. Only 8 of them fit in this case. What the hell? Freaking failed, dude. What the hell? None of these fit in here? Are you serious? I had them in here before. Oh, it's not fitting. It's not in the holes. Dummy. Go ahead and make sure it's fitting in the holes first of all. There we go. Dummy. Alright, now go ahead and put your motherboard screws in. Make sure your motherboard's lined up. Make sure you're not cross-threading anything. Make sure you're just going lightly in here. And then one thing we're going to do in this scenario of the micro ATX build, it's a little different than what I would normally do, is we're actually going to put the cables in first before we do power supply. And we're going to go ahead and put everything else. So we got CPU, 8-pin, and things of that nature. We're going to put our cables in before we do our power supply, just because I think it's going to make it easier. Alright, now we have all our screws installed. Alright, now let's go ahead and we're going to do something a little different out of order because it's a micro ATX build. We're going to go ahead and do everything. We're going to go ahead and do all our wiring. So we're going to do our front panel connectors, our USB connectors, all at kind of the same time. We're going to do our audio. The audio goes in the bottom left-hand side of our motherboard. Our front panel connector. We're going to try and tuck these in the best we can because it will get annoying when it sticks under our power supply. Or not, under our graphics card. It does kind of get annoying. So what we're going to do is try to tuck these away the best we can underneath the I probably should tuck that underneath there, huh? You kind of got to plan a little better when it comes to micro ATX builds. You have to plan a little better when it comes to cable management and what you're actually going to use and what you're just going to opt out of using. That's the only thing about micro ATX, in my opinion. And for any small form factor, you have to kind of plan what you're going to use and how you're going to do it better than just normal ATX. Let's go ahead and grab our power supply cables, which I don't even know where I put them. Here we put them. All right, let's go ahead and grab our power supply cables. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to install our CPU cables first. So this is our CPU cables. We're going to go ahead and install one of these to the left side. All right, now we're going to go ahead and install this to the top. Tuck these behind our little tray here. Stick it out the front. Then we grab our second one. Our second CPU connector. So now we only have one extra one. We have a 4-pin. So we have 6-pin and a 4-pin. We don't have both 6 pins. This particular motherboard. So I'm going to go ahead and use this to stick it in the hole. Make sure it clicks. We're gonna go ahead and tuck this wire, this other wire, underneath the power supply cable, so it's out of the way, hopefully. If it will tuck underneath. I want to sit in this little groove right here. There you go. So it'll kind of be a little bit better cable managed. I'm going to stick this out the front of the case like we are the rest of the cables. Alright, just like so. Our cable management is decent. Not the best, but it's decent for right now. Eventually we'll tuck all these away. Try to keep the cable management semi-clean in this build, even though it is hard to do. So let's go ahead and grab the remaining of our connectors. We have 24 pin, and that's pretty much all we need right now. Let's go ahead and install our 24 pin. Okay, let's go ahead and tuck this out the front of the system as well, which is going to go on the bottom of our system, because all of our cable connectors for the power supply will be at the bottom of our case. It's going to be a tight, kind of a tight angle here, but it is what it is. All right, so let's go ahead and install our CPU fans and pump first before we install the rad. So let's go ahead and do that. First, we're going to install the fans. We're going to install, set the case aside. We're going to go ahead and install our fans in our thing. Right, so particularly with this setup, is we will have our hoses, or our hoses for our AIO on the back side of our case. So this will be toward the rear IO. This side will be rear IO. This side will be in front of the case. So that means we're going to want our fans, the wiring on our fans, to stick out the back side of our AIO, which will be this way. When I flip this over, we're going to want to stick out the back side. Our cables will be on the back side of the case. So it's going to be better to cable manage them. And they'll be a lot more hidden on the back side. Another thing about micro ATX builds, I know it's kind of in my face now, but it is what it is. Well, that did not work out at all, did it? The thing about micro ATX builds is you kind of got cable management as you go for micro ATX and ATX. Kind of make cable management as you go, because a lot of stuff you're not going to be able to access once you are in the whole, like in the case, like for power fan headers and stuff like that. We're going to hook all these up before we install anything else. So we're going to put our fan controller in, which I forgot to show. We do have a fan controller with these fans, fan hub, which I guess we don't have to use because we do have enough headers on our motherboard to run our fans individually to different headers, which we could still do theoretically, but we're actually going to use the hub just to make it cleaner cable wise. So I'm going to go ahead and install our screws into our AIO, or into our AIO fans. Install our screws. We're setting this in as an exhaust AIO. We are not going to use any intake fans. We're just going to let the case itself be the intake. I did think about putting a back IO or a back fan on there, like a fan on the back. We could do that still. We might in the future. But right now we're just going to try to see how the thermals are with this thing having just having intake fans, no exhaust fans. I know now that this is in my way now, I'm talking to you guys, but hopefully it makes the content a little better. And so we will move this in the future and mess around with how I really want to put it up here. Get like a mount that hangs somewhere up there. But temporarily I was going to see if it makes the content overall better. Having more angles. I have experimented kind of with using a computer to record on and like use OBS and use like webcams or different cams. I've experimented with that. The thing that I had a problem with is the distance in this room isn't very big. So the cameras didn't have enough zoom capabilities. I'd have to get zoomable cameras and change the lenses on them, or change the lenses on them. So maybe I'll do that in the future to overall up the quality content, or the content quality. But for right now, we're just doing what we have. Our hub. Grab our hub off the shelf. All right, so temporarily we're going to stick our hub to the metal part of the case where the power supply is. We're going to plug our PWM fan into here, which we had it last time we built this thing. Top, and we're going to use our RGB. We'll use the second one over with our AIO logo on this one. Then we're going to temporarily tuck these wires at the top of the case. And we're going to stick our CPU pump on there, but we need to grab our thermal paste. So behind us we have our thermal paste. We have our KPX cooling. Thermal paste is this is the stuff I use a lot of, just because I like it. There's other options out there. They're pretty good still, but I use KPX. It's a little on the expensive side because it's imported from Taiwan, from Kingpin himself. But it does work really well. That's why I use it all the time. I'm gonna go ahead and stick our right here. Stick our pump how we want it. We want our pump to look like this. We want the wires to kind of tuck underneath these tubes for now. And we're going to kind of set this up here carefully without dropping it on the CPU. Set this in here. Stick this face down. You gotta be careful with these hoses because they're short, but we're doing it a little bit different. I don't like this bracket on this AIO personally. It is a little hard to use, but you just hook the front or hook the top. It's the easiest thing to do, and then you go down here, rotate the right direction. Then hook the bottom. Hook the top. It takes a second to line the bottom up. You gotta hook the bottom, and you gotta tighten up one of them. Once it starts to tighten up, find it easier to now start to make sure that the top one will tighten up, or the other, whichever one you didn't use first, to make sure that also tightens up. it doesn't tighten up, you got to kind of wiggle it a little bit. Just think about these. This AMD mounting hardware, the default one, is bad. I had the same problem on my AM4 sockets too. It's bad. Like the default is bad, but the 4 screws, you have ones that have the brackets that mount to the 4 screws, and that works really well. There we go. Now, the first thing I find to do is tighten this one up, tighten them up kind of equally. And then just kind of tighten them as best you can evenly. That's what I usually do. I know you're supposed to do one or the other, but I usually do both of them at the same time, just to kind of get it evenly pressing down. The method to press down instead of going like back and forth. I like to just have it go together. I always switch hands because generally your one hand is more dominant than the other as you're putting down. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and plug our CPU cooler fan into the CPU cooler slot, or AIO pump header, whichever one you decide to use. Whatever your motherboard supports, you're gonna use that header. For us, it's the light gray one, and then we're gonna use our AIO RGB color. We're gonna stick it next to our. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna knock our AIO over. Whoopsies. That's fine. We're gonna go ahead and stick the wiring in the socket area here. Kind of keep it clean. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and take our fan wire, just stick them out the front of the AIO. Okay. Now we're gonna keep those out the front of the case. Now we're going to go ahead and stick our AIO into the case here, and gently keeping our hand pressed on the box side. Okay. Now we're going to stand our case up very gingerly. Make sure our cables are pinched. Then go ahead and line our cooler up. Make sure to stick our header out the front now. Everything's out the top of the outside of the case. It's going out the side of the case. Then we're going to line our AIO up. We're going to bring it back as far as we can to the back of the case. So this way, as far back to the side as we can. Go ahead and put our screws in. There, no. Find that in a second. Find it in a second. Most PC builders agree that AIOs are one of the most annoying things to install. Or RADs in general are one of the most annoying things to install. Especially if you don't pre-install your fans. And if that screw dropped, hopefully it fell at the bottom. Luckily it fell to the bottom. Alright, now that that's out of the way. Alright, so now we can go ahead and install our graphics card. We would install our graphics card, or the front panel connector fell out, or we didn't plug in. Alright, let's go ahead and install our graphics card. So remove our rear PCIe slot covers on the case. We're going to go ahead and install our graphics card in here. Make sure our PCIe retention tab is all the way pushed down. Very carefully put our thing in here. Very carefully put our graphics card in. Make sure it slots in perfectly straight. Do not push in on it unless it's ready to go into the hole. Should not take much force to get it into the hole. Into the slot. Make sure everything lines up on the back side there. Go ahead and screw it in. Tighten your screws down. All right. Now time for the dreaded but fun, not really fun, I shouldn't say fun, the dreaded power supply section. So we're going to remove this front power supply cage. And before we install the power supply, what we're actually going to do is do the fan header, the fans first. Thinking that's going to be the better way of doing this. The better way is going to be connect the fan headers first. So what we're going to do, find our fan hub, find our fans. We have 3 of them. Make sure our wires are pulled kind of tight. Make sure they're in a decent direction. Untangle them all if they get tangled, like ours currently did. And then start plugging in our fans. So we have 3, and we're missing a fan. We're currently missing a fan header. Got it. Okay. So again, plug in our fan headers. Primary fans. Now, if it was a proprietary like software we're going to use to control this, like Corsair's IQ or things like that, generally what I like to do is make my #1 fan start wherever I want, either the exhaust back fan or the front intake fan at the very bottom. And I go 2 is the one above it, 3 is the one above that, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's all in order. I try to make it all in order, but these aren't going to be controlled like that. These are just going to let them kind of just RGB however they want. Or I'm just going to turn the RGB off entirely. But if I want to use it, I might use it, or have, like a solid color, static color. But yeah, if I'm going to have RGB like effects, I usually make it in that order, just because it makes it easier to, in the software later, to set them up. So you know which fan's which. So you know what lighting effect to go on which fan. All right, so let's go ahead and get our power supply ready. So in order to get the power supply ready, you're going to, sorry, case kind of out of frame a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and stick this on here. It only really goes one way with this current power supply. So I think it goes like, don't get our power supply the right direction. It only goes one way with this power supply. So take our power supply screws out that we kept left in here. It only goes one way with this current power supply, I believe. Let's try the other way. See, let's try this other way. It does work with both ways. Okay, so you can go whichever direction you want. So, do you want our fan intaking? Do you want our fan exhausting out the front? Which we do not, because we have the solid front panel, so we want to actually turn it around to where the fan, the power supply, is into the case. Yes, it does put a little bit more, does take a lot of the power supply, some of the fresh air in the case. It does kind of pull some of that, but that's fine. It should be okay for our application. So we're going to line our screws up for our power supply, do our little bracket here. But we want all of our exhaust heat out the top, which this is the exhaust for the power supply, and it's going to be facing the top of the case, and so is our exhaust fans for the AIO. So it'll all be exhausting out the top of the case, which is perfect. So yeah, that's where we're at. I will in the future have to move this probably to like the side of me or something, which I guess I could do in the future. Kind of change the orientation of the video. But for right now, it does work. You're kind of looking over it. Hopefully it makes the video more informative, easier to watch. All right, so now, set aside a second, bring our case closer again. And we're going to go ahead and stick all of our power supply connectors in. We'll put our 24 pin in, I guess, first. Doesn't necessarily matter the orientation. And we need our SATA power to control our hub, so we will do that here momentarily. So let's go ahead and install our CPU. So we're going to route these a little bit nicer down to go along with the 24 pin. We could zip tie these together right here and kind of make them tucked. Kind of zip tie them right there, and kind of tuck them together. We're not going to go through the trouble right now to do so, but I'm going to tuck all these underneath our fan headers, or fan wires, to make those our secondary cables. Again, if you watch some of our other videos, I believe in our first ever build video, where I talk about cable management. If not, I might do a video just dedicated to cable management. I call our power supply wires like our primary wires, wires that don't get moved very often. Because our power supply wires are primary wires because they don't get moved very often. They don't, I mean, you're not swapping out power supplies, but you could swap out fans more often, or SATA cables, things of that nature, like SATA powered drives, stuff like that. All right, let's go ahead and grab our SATA connector for our RGB hub. Plug into the middle. All right, let's go ahead and plug our GPU in. And GPU connector in. This has the NVIDIA kind of not patented, but preferred cable, the 24 or 12 pin high power. You can see mine's kind of bent a bunch, but it's not melted in any shape or form. So that's why I don't care that it's bent like that. So let's go ahead and plug that in. Make sure it connects in, make sure it clicks, make sure you hear it click. All right, let's go ahead and flip our power supply the right direction. Oh, I did that backwards. Frick, did I? I did that backwards. I put our fan as the intake. Whoops, I did put our bracket on backwards. I put our fan as the intake, which I guess it would technically still work, but I put our fan on toward the front of the case for our power supply bracket. So I'm going to switch that around real quick. Idiot, man. Idiot, man. Luckily, it's not too hard to swap over. All right, let's go ahead and make sure our cable is connected. Yes, they are. Let's go ahead and stick this into our case. Actually, we're going to put our power cable in as well while we're at it. We don't have to do it here, but we will. Make sure SATA power is the correct direction. Okay, so it looks like a wiring nightmare, which a lot of times micro ATX cases do kind of offer a little bit of wiring nightmare. That's why I try to build these micro ATX builds. I generally don't run RGB fans. I try not to, at least. I run like RGB fans and things of that nature. I try to run everything pretty much bare minimal when I run these configurations, just to avoid excessive wires. We usually stick the other case up for this part. Use gravity as our assistant here. Stick our power supply cable in. I do not like how the direction of this goes, but orientation this goes, but we're going to stick these at the top. Make sure they have plenty of room. Make sure no wires. Make sure no wires are pinched on the side because this power supply is massive. I'm going to tuck it in. Make sure it fits inside the slope. Make sure it fits inside. Shove it in the hole. All right, it's in. Pick it up slightly so it lines up with the grooves. Make sure it snaps into the grooves in the front. This side's going to pain in the butt. This side's going in. This side was going in. Make sure it snaps to the grooves it's designed to go into. All right, perfect. It's in there. Line the screw holes up. Screw it in. Line the screw holes up again. Screw it in. Stick our hub in the top section here that still is open. It'll actually fit there. Oh, it will. It'll actually fit there. It'll actually fit there. See the front panel fit on there. It might fit. If it does, that's perfect. Where's the panel? It might fit on here, it might not. No, it's not. It does fit in here, so I stuck it in here last time. I don't remember how I stuck it in here. Like that, I think. Stick our front panel on. Go ahead and wire our GPU bracket, our GPU connector in here. Hopefully no wires interrupt with that. All right, go ahead and take this down. We don't need this anymore. All right. Let's go ahead and install the rest of our cables, or the rest of our panels, and be good to go. Grab our panels. Turn it around. All right, so there's our build. There's our micro ATX build. Everything looks pretty clean in there. Can't really see any, I mean, you can see a couple wires, but nothing. See a couple wires in there, nothing crazy. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching this micro ATX build. Probably make this into 2 different videos, like I shrunk my gaming PC. Probably make this into 2 separate videos. One, I shrunk my gaming PC video from this case to this case, and then we'll do like hopefully the in-depth video. Hopefully that other camera didn't block my face the whole time. If it did, we'll scrap one of them and just go with what we have. In the my PC video, I'll probably do some thermal testing with this to see how it looks. But for now, we'll just keep it how it is. Go ahead and hook it up to my system, my setup. When everything's done, when I get everything wired in, I'll do a setup tour of like the new studio design. Hopefully the background's a lot nicer, more tech enthusiast looking. Hopefully the background's a lot more tech enthusiast looking. You know, some of these boxes are empty, some of them are not empty, I'll be honest. So I have all my RAM back here, I have my graphics cards, my motherboards, power supplies, graphics cards, so, you know, everything over here. So I can just grab something as I need it. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like. Comment other videos you want to see in the future, or other testing you want to see. Another thing we are working on in between videos is our test benches, our test bench. We have one right now. We're trying to get that all wired up and officially in, and like kind of where it's going to stay permanently. So we're kind of work on that. That's part of the reason why we rearranged part of the studio, or this room, I guess, kind of a studio. So that's one thing coming up. So yeah. So if you want to see future content, make sure you subscribe to come back to see more videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and then comment other videos you want to see in the future, other builds, other type of content, more tech advice stuff. Whatever you want to see, let me know.